It's been said the whole world is a stage and everybody plays a part. But the question remains, who's writing the script?
My name is Milo Pierwola, and when I was a child, I had a dream.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye. Okay, guys, let's go.
I wanted to become a world explorer, but everyone told me that this is just fantasy. Naively, I listened and became a lawyer, but never forgot my dream. Then, one day, I left it all behind. I realized that if I didn't try, then for sure I would never achieve it. And today, I learned that the search is the adventure, and that I am becoming an explorer by helping people around the world. An impossible dream, born in my home in New York City. I live to prove that you too can become your hero.
Welcome to Around the Fire.
Hey, how you doing? Come on in and join us here at Around the Fire. I'm your host, Uncle Frankie, and today I have a very special show for you. In fact, we're going to learn about what it means to become your hero. And the man who coined that phrase is Mr. Milo Pierwola. Milo, welcome to Around the Fire, my brother.
Thank you.
It is so good to see you again. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it
and
has.
I see you've been adventurous.
I've gotten out a little bit, a little outside of the city. The subways don't go to where I've
hear
been.
you, and that's a good thing because the subways are a challenge in themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Milo, man, I know you have had one journey in this life, and I would like for you to share with the viewers, some of the beginning points, like when you came from Poland, and you ran into your number one challenge, which was a language barrier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, what I'd like to do is I'd like to join you.
Yes.
There's an unwritten rule about being inside the studio, from what I understand. And part of that is taking shoes off.
Yes.
So let me take my Oboz hiking shoes off. They're one of my the supporting brands for me. But now I will be able to participate in the conversation in a way that's going to give us an opportunity to be on the same level.
I love it. I love it.
So,
welcome to the Barefoot Conversations on Around the Fire.
Exactly. Around the Fire, barefoot.
There we go.
So I came from a communist country, and I think it's important to realize that. The reason for that is because in Poland, when it was under the power of the USSR, communism's philosophy and ideology is that everybody has their role. You have your role. If you're in government, you're in government. If you're a farmer, you're a farmer. If you're a policeman, you're a policeman. Your children will be policemen, and so on. So the philosophy of communism is that you are born into what you're going to be. And that's the way it's going to be.
Seems like choice is eliminated.
On the other hand, when I came to America, it was actually quite the opposite philosophy. In America, when you're born and you go to school, you can be anybody, right? You can be the President of the United States. You can be an astronaut. That's what they tell you. So immediately when I was a child, there was a conflict in the ideology I was being raised into. So it wasn't just a language barrier, but it was a cultural barrier, and it was a philosophical barrier that nobody really explains to you. So from the very beginning, I was instilled with a strong sense of confusion as to what it just means to be alive and what it is to be successful.
That's a point. Wow.
So I ended up going to school here, and my parents, coming from communism, again, coming from a country that was under conflict historically, Poland is probably on top of the list of countries that have been taken over by, I think there's a meme online that says Poland was taken over by this many countries, and it just lists them all, including itself, by the way. Poland took itself over. That's historically accurate. So that being said, coming here, it was very challenging for me because I had this conflict, and I was raised politely listening to my elders, as any child should be, well behaved. And what happened as a result of that is I wasn't listening to what I needed in my life. I was listening to what others were instructing for me to have.
Yes.
So when you ask older people, what should I do with my life, they give you the best advice that they understand, which is become a lawyer, become a doctor, become a politician, become a police officer, go to the army, things like that. But it's never, well, what do you want to do in life?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And the reason I say never is because perhaps that question comes up. Unfortunately, the way that people deal with non-traditional answers. So, for example, if you're in high school and you ask your guidance counselor, or your guidance counselor brings you into their office and they say, you know, what do you want to do? And you tell them, well, I want to be a rock star. Well, what's your backup is usually the follow-up. You know, because you're not going to be a rock star is the assumption. Instead of encouraging somebody to pursue music and to go and do these specific things, a guidance counselor's job is give them the average safe answer, which is go to school. Encourage people to go to further education, which, by the way, the costs have reached a level right now that would bankrupt most people if you don't find a job out of school. And that puts significant pressure on anybody who's going to school, especially if you're not pursuing something that you're passionate about. So when I went to school, I just understood go to school, because at the end of school is a golden egg that you'll reach when you graduate, and that golden egg is going to provide you for the rest of your life. So for all the people that went to school, how realistic is that expectation?
And how connected is it to you?
Well, so the reason it's connected to my journey is because that's what I did. I listened to my elders. I went to school, so I went to college with a double major, and then I went to law school where I became an attorney. And I always had, as you saw in the video, I always had this dream that sat in the back of my head, and just every once in a while it'd come around and be like, so you're going to do this thing, or am I going to just keep walking around in circles? So I decided to see if I could combine that. So my legal practice became international, and I did a couple, or I worked with the Constitutional Court of South Africa. I worked in London under a barrister. I worked in New Jersey. I worked in New York. Mostly, I'm still licensed in New York. And in New York, I was a sitting member of the New York Bar Association's Africa Affairs Committee. So the type of work that I was doing was already international, and I was already humanitarian. I was already helping people. That the thing that stood in the way between me and my dream was all this legal nonsense that I would have to read and sit behind a desk and do every day. Now, I don't mean to say that becoming an attorney is a bad thing. Becoming an attorney is a very, very important part of our society, and everybody who is an attorney and who wants to be, I absolutely commend you for your effort and your passion. It was not my passion. So I was not forced into it. I pursued it, I became it, but what I discovered was it was not fulfilling. It was a job I went to every day, and it was something that was eroding my purpose for living. So I found myself at a place where effectively I was suicidal, because I had no reason to not be safe. So I was walking the edges of skyscrapers, intoxicated. I was jumping into water with a tuxedo, for example, at my friend's bachelor party in midnight in Atlantic City. And this behavior was becoming more and more radical and more extreme, and putting me in a position where, like, well, if I die, who cares, right? Because I'm not doing what I'm happy anyway. If I'm waking up every day and going to my own personal turmoil, what is there for me to live for? If tomorrow is just going to be a worse day than yesterday because it's yet another day in my own prison.
Wow, you were really living not aligned with your truth.
No, it was the opposite,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm a survivor, you know, as you could see, I'm a survivor, I'm an explorer, so
Right.
I survived my expeditions. I just wasn't applying my survival skills in the appropriate way.
Well, that's because you went along with the program that most of us would usually go along with, because it's part of the paradigm and the value system.
And I think it's a cultural phenomenon that's taking place right now, because most people I speak to are inspired by what I do, and they say, I wish I could do what you're doing. The difference between I wish and I'm doing is very simple. Do it.
Right.
Now, I know it's not easy. The reason I know it's not easy is because I am in no way exceptional. In fact, I nearly failed out of high school. I nearly failed out of college. I got into law school because I worked as hard as when I pick a task and I pursue it, I get it. That's the thing, right? But I'm not an exceptional student. I'm a bad student. The semester before I graduated, I was brought into my guidance counselor's office, and they said, or the counselor's office, whatever it is, they said I had the second lowest grade point average in the school, and I better pick it up where I won't graduate. That's a fact. So I'm not a person who has achieved exceptional things, and this is why things don't come easily to me. So when I speak to audiences, I'm not somebody that is out of touch. I'm somebody who had to work from the very bottom. I have all of my academic debt still, okay? At 29 years old, I found myself in a career that had taken my entire life to build, and that career I have completely abandoned. So I'm somebody who literally took everything that I achieved in my life and I threw it away. I no longer work as an attorney. I no longer work in a capacity of an attorney in any way. I now do things differently. So when I decided to pursue my dream, I had no training. I had 6 figures of debt. Still have most of that debt, by the way. And I had taken an entire. I was taking a completely different direction at a point in my life where anybody, any reasonable person would say it's too late. It's too late for you to do this. And so by making that decision, I became the embodiment of the argument, of the philosophy that I live, which is you can become your hero. That's why it's my hashtag, right? So it's become your hero. Because no matter what your age is, you're alive. You can still pursue whatever it is you want to do. I mean, we're looking at billionaires right now in the world, like the McDonald's guys. They didn't start McDonald's until they were 53 years old.
Yes.
Okay? So it's not time that stands between you and your goals. It's the motivation and ambition and action that you need to take. So when people say, I wish you could do what you do, what stands in your way? Because I know of blind mountain climbers who have reached the top of Mount Everest. I know of quadriplegic mountaineers who don't have their limbs. They don't have legs, they don't have arms, and they climb mountains. I know of friends of mine who right now are having their second baby, and they're professional explorers, expeditioners. So what they do is they take their babies with them to go camping and to do everything else. It's not the world that stands in your way. The world is hard for everyone. Me, for Frank, for the people in this station, for every single person, the world is a challenging and difficult place. And just like Sylvester Stallone said in his role in Rocky, no matter how tough you are, life is going to knock you down. The only people that survive and get their way are the people who continue to stand up. And that is the hardest thing, because every single day I'm presented with challenges that I feel are impossible for me. Just because I've overcome these incredible trials in my life doesn't mean that I don't have it hard. And just, by the way, you know, I'm still growing. The fact that I'm here is me taking yet another step towards my goal. And that's the way it is. You wake up every day, and you know what? Sometimes you stay in bed because you need to heal and you need to regroup. Because staying in bed doesn't move you forward, but it doesn't allow you to move backwards. You don't get sucked back with the current. You're continuing to stay in a safe place while you recoup, and you take the steps necessary to move forward.
So would you say one of the driving forces is what you believed in at the time, beliefs? Because
I mean, it's sort of like I'm stubborn. I come from a small village in Poland. It's called Stromowce Wyżne, which is the Upper Stromo. And it's a small community. I think it's 2,500 people at this point still. So it's 700 years old. My family is one of the families that established it. So wow. in a strange way, you can kind of say that I'm a purebred human. But that being said, in that village, the men are known for being as stubborn as the mountains. And so whenever I pursue something, like I said, I don't give up. I may have had the lowest grade point average or whatever it was, or you know, a significant struggle in school studying and working for something that I didn't care for, you know, because why would I study a subject that I really didn't care for? Right. But it is that power to not give up that has gotten me to where I was going. Right. I mean, to becoming an attorney in America, especially in California and New York, those are the two hardest states to become an attorney in. I did that. And I did that, and I was not passionate about it. And this was a moment of illumination for me when I realized it, because I said to myself, well, if you're not passionate about this, in fact, if you hate it, and yet in spite of that, you were able to put yourself in a position where you're sitting behind a desk and studying every day to take one of the hardest exams in the world, how far would you go if your passion was behind what you were doing? Then the impossible would be a completely different thing to me. And this is now the case. I am now meeting with my heroes, the people that inspired me. I was just at a trade show several weeks ago, and I spoke to the people that are literally living legends today about my journey and about my intentions, my ambitions, and I said, this is what I intend to do. And I understand that, they get this from everybody, but they said, send us your information. Because year after year after year, when they're going to be watching me, and I'm going to be coming back year after year without resources, being able to accomplish things, without money, without connections, without power. I'm just an immigrant, guys, who is, naturalized, so I'm a citizen, in the correct ways, legally, but I am an immigrant who came to this country with nothing. My parents had nothing. They worked 16 hours per day, every single day. I barely saw my parents when I was a child. I come from there, and every single step of the way, I'm, I have had to struggle to achieve what I want. It becomes an empowering journey. Because looking back, I realized that I've overcome things that I thought were impossible. And so today, I have achieved incredible things for me. I mean, every single explorer or aspiring explorer says to themselves, one day I want to be sponsored by Rolex. I want to be sponsored by, the top companies, Tag Heuer, or any one of these companies that you see at the elite level. And I chose to pursue something that had a very personal connection to me, and that is writing. So I write in my leather-bound journals every single day. So I have multiple different. So I'll put this down here. So I keep a journal of my journey over here, and in this journal I've written in different colored pens because it inspires me to write. I am documenting this journey because I came from nothing. So one day people are going to be able to say, this guy did it. But in the process, in order to encourage myself to write, I chose to write with a fountain pen. And this fountain pen is a Monte Grappa fountain pen. Monte Grappa is the Rolex of fountain pens. It's obviously not as big as Rolex because you haven't heard of it, most likely. But it is a company that is well established and one of the top companies for this niche of products. And I said to myself, I'm going to be an ambassador for Monte Grappa. Well, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I became an ambassador for Monte Grappa. This is a life goal. This is something that, if you can imagine for yourself, if you're an aspiring basketball player, it's like saying to yourself, Nike's going to sponsor me one day, and then getting that.
Okay, so
and
keeping a focus.
This is a step. You choose your goals, and you don't let go.
Right.
You do not let go.
What would you say is the force behind that? Is it beliefs? Is it focus? Is it determination? What would you say fuels that? Because the viewers need to get an idea of the core operating system.
I mean, there's different ways to kind of approach it, but I think the easiest way to understand it is you give yourself no other options.
Okay.
That's it.
So you set a path, you set a goal.
For about a year and a half, maybe, after I stopped being an attorney, in the back of my mind, and to every single person I said, I agreed with them when they said, well, at least you've got, being a lawyer to fall back on. And I thought, yeah, I guess I do, because that's how I can dig myself out of this hole I'm digging myself into. But the fact is, no, I am never going to be an attorney, ever. I have given that up. Yeah. The only pursuit of success is the one that I have created for myself. And so if the only way forward, if the only progress I can make is to be successful in these impossible things, then I don't have any other responsibilities.
And there's no need to fall back, because that's also dividing yourself. You got to put energy in what you're supposed to be falling back towards,
exactly,
and then put energy in what you're going forward with.
A plan B means that your resources are being put into plan B. Whether it's
your
energy, whether it's the 0.1% of resources that you have that's being put into plan B, you're not putting 100% into
what's going forward, right?
And I don't want to fool people and make you believe that just because you're motivated, you're going to be successful. It's not motivation.
It's work.
Motivation is something that kind of comes and goes. You're
that's
motivated
the fire
one day,
under your behind.
Not motivated another day. It's literally not having other options. If you believe that you're going to be a famous rapper, famous NBA star, if you believe you're going to be a rock star, if you believe you're going to be the world's best chess player, let me explain something to you. and I think I may have said this last time I was on, there's a human being on Earth right now. At one point in his life, he folded a piece of paper into a paper airplane, and then he threw it. And that paper airplane today holds the world record for the longest distance that a paper airplane has ever flown. That individual has literally created an entire career, and he now travels around the world to various universities, engineering institutes, whatever you have you, and he discusses the process of getting to the final airplane that flew that distance. He is earning money from that.
See?
Another one, this is for the kids, if kids are listening. When I was a child, all of my elders, everybody, including my peers, games were a waste of time. Okay, you got nowhere with games. You played Super Mario Brothers, you played, Donkey Kong, you played all these different games, and it was a waste of time. It was rotting your brain. Today, on YouTube, there is people literally making millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars, by recording themselves playing games. That's it. Okay, so whatever your passion is, whether it's folding paper and throwing airplanes, whether it's playing video games, whatever it is, the potential exists to build an entire career around it.
And the key word is potential, how you direct that potential.
You have
and
to believe
talking
it.
about directing potential, I have some clips, some stills from some of your journeys that I'd like to share with our audience.
Yeah.
Can we see some of those clips, please? Now, Milo, this looks like it took place in a cave.
Yeah. That is the largest concrete mine, I think, in the world. It's in New York, and it still
it's in
exists.
New York. Wow.
This is the Northern Lights in the Yukon
that
territory.
took me away. My God, how did that feel when you were standing in the midst of all of that beauty and energy?
It's impossible to explain. That's why I'm using this the virtual reality right now, which we'll get to, I guess, in a moment. But it's impossible to explain what the feeling is. I can show you pretty thick pictures, and I can show you, tell you about it, and I can maybe record a video, but it's impossible to put you into the moment and understand the journey that took me to the moment. Because there is a release of the endorphins and dopamine that you get when you finally get somewhere and see something and experience something that you have been struggling and fighting for years. There's no way for me to get that encapsulated and
in
give
words. You can't put it in words.
You can't, but you can recreate the experience. And so what I decided to do is, well, first I'll set this up because I got to explain where this came from. When I chose to become an explorer, I was literally abandoned by my entire community. So my parents were extremely disappointed because I gave up being an attorney. My family didn't really want me hanging out with their kids because here's somebody that became an attorney and then completely ejected and abandoned that career for something,
black sheep of the family.
For something that doesn't even need a high school degree to do, right? So I was, being held at arm's length from my family, and then my friends disappeared because I wasn't on their time, in their time zone, right? So maybe I was in Scotland or Africa or Australia or wherever it was, but when I wanted to talk to them online, they were in a completely different time zone, in school, at work, whatever, and so those slowly dissolved, those relationships. So I found myself completely abandoned and alone. And it was a process that was extremely trying for me because you wake up every day and nobody's supporting you. And all you see is failure after failure after failure. You can't get this. You are rejected for this. You can't afford this. You can't do that, right? So where does the inspiration come from? And the only thing that I found solace in is identifying these minuscule things that took place that nudged me forward because it was an impossible goal. So if I got closer to it, I was demonstrating to myself that something was moving.
Yes. And something had to get out of the way.
But these moments of euphoria that I felt, me standing there and seeing the northern lights, watching waves the size of houses pound shores and shake the sand under my feet, standing on top of mountains in the middle of a blizzard where you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you and somehow you had to find your way back. These moments during these moments, I felt like it was all justified. Everything was justified because the journey that took me there is hard, but the reward is worth it.
Yes.
To be on the cover of NBA magazine is worth it, right? But the only way to get there is through the trials and tribulations.
That's right.
Michael Jordan did not buy his way to be the #1 basketball player ever. Neither did LeBron James or anybody else. And so the moments that I have on top of these mountains and everything else, finally, with virtual reality, I discovered that there's a way for me to communicate that particular experience. And that is with virtual reality.
Yes.
So in 2015, I discovered virtual reality cameras, 360 cameras. I should have brought it in, but I've got the headset. And what I do is I record these adventures. I record them in these environments. I just went to Everest and I recorded a documentary up to Everest Base Camp in virtual reality, 360 degrees, and I'm going to be bringing it to you for free.
All right.
And the biggest thing actually about it is it's not regular people that I decided to bring this to, because regular people, normal, fully functioning individuals, are distracted by technology 24 hours a day. Don't tell me that you haven't downloaded the newest mobile phone games, or you're using computers to play games, or you're watching television, or you're going to this or that. There's so many different things that we're distracted by, right?
Yes.
But then there was these communities of individuals that were neglected. People who were differently abled or underprivileged, who were simply left alone and discarded and left to live and to survive, but otherwise neglected.
Yes.
And so I decided the individuals that need the most inspiration in their life, the people that need to have this ambrosia provided to them, and to say to them, become your hero. Anything is possible. Become your hero, whatever you want to do. I decided to take this technology to places where people were paralyzed, differently abled, underprivileged, and so this is a technology that I am now bringing to orphanages, hospitals, elderly facilities, inpatient care centers, and I'm giving people who are paralyzed, who have never been able to sit up on their own strength, the opportunity to participate with me in the most extreme environments to accomplish the most amazing feats.
And we have some shots from one of your visits to a facility in Brooklyn.
That's correct.
Could you please bring up those shots, please?
So these were, this is the UCP in Brooklyn, which is the Cerebral Palsy Center there. And these individuals were with me when I first started to distribute this content. So I was able to bring it to them, and they were able to ride a bicycle or go on the subway or go to a nightclub, climb a mountain, go sailing. They were able to ice climb. They were able to do so many amazing things. And to take somebody who is in a position where they do not believe that they can literally sit up out of bed on their own. They don't believe it. And to put the virtual reality goggles on them and to allow them to experience what it is like to climb a mountain is an experience that is so moving, it is impossible to describe. And then you press the next button and they go and have the first ever experience in their life the next experience. And you press the next button, it happens over and over and over. And so bringing this to individuals like this has truly been a transformative experience.
And it's also how you've taken your passion and extended it into humanitarian efforts as well.
Yeah.
Like what you did with this visit. No, it's beautiful because it's like a branching out, of what your vision for yourself was, your dream, your belief in your passion has also exposed you, has also taken you to other places where people like in these photographs can have an experience that they might not be able to have any other way.
To learn more, please visit adventuremilo.com or punch in the hashtag #BecomeYourHero and check it out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Milo, thank you so much for joining us here on Around the Fire, man. It has been a great adventure having you here, and it has been so inspiring, listening to your journey. And I hope some of our viewers will take away with them that they can become their own hero. Believe in yourself, believe in your dream. And there may be some sacrifices along the way, but that's all preparation for the reward ahead. So until we meet next time around the fire, be well, be safe, be empowered, and follow your passion. Take care.
It's been said, the whole world is a stage and everybody plays a part. But the question remains, who's writing the script?